And we are back on Open Line. Chuck Long here with attorney Clint Kelly. We are glad that you have tuned in this evening. If you do have any questions, as always, we say just jot those questions down. Questions, comments, give us a call. The number on your screen right there, 737-7587. And not only are we talking about medical malpractice, but we're also talking about dental malpractice. So you may have had something that occurred to you that you would like to ask us. So give us a call on that as well. Right now, we are going to go back to our lines. Robert is on the line with us. Robert, thanks for your patience. We're glad you called. Do you have a question or a comment for Clint?
Yes, sir. Thank you for taking my call.
Sure.
Mr. Kelly, we actually spoke the first week of January.
Right.
I'm sure you might not remember, but I had triple bypass done on December 3rd. December 10th, they did that, what they call correlated artery on the right side. And when I actually got out, I ended up spending 2 weeks in the hospital, 2 in a recovery care facility. And when I talked to you, I wasn't able to speak. I wasn't able to swallow. I wasn't able to walk. Well, I've kind of healed a little. You told me if the symptoms are still there in 3 months, give me a call. Well, since that time, I've been able to talk much better, although it didn't do anything for my sinus, nasal way of speaking. But 3 weeks ago, I failed the swallow test still. The right side of my neck, this going back to the 10th with the artery, is still numb. And apparently, they must have done something to my nervous system, because this never happened to me in my life. I had these, like, uncontrollable spurts of, my, like, nervous system firing. I could be writing something, and all of a sudden my hand shoots out. I have trouble making scrambled eggs because I can't seem to get that motion going. Do I still have the possibility of a case, being that my speech came back? I'm still having trouble walking. I don't know what they did to me that took away my ability to walk. I'm either in a wheelchair or using my walker to get around, and I'll leave the rest to you.
Robert, I want you to call my office first thing in the morning. The phone number will come up at the end, but it's 615-824-3703, and I want you to ask to speak to Pat and tell her you've got a medical negligence claim that you called the show the previous night, and I told you to speak to her. Now, this is something I'm glad that Robert's doing, and this is a classic example of a situation where someone thinks there's been something done wrong to them, they have not fully healed, and they're getting legal attention or legal advice. It costs Robert nothing to call, and he's doing exactly what I told him to. The question he raised for the show, and it's a good one, is if I've healed to some extent, do I still have a claim? The question is yes, because how much is he healed? I mean, if he's got a nervous system disorder, we call a neurological disorder, and he has difficulty walking, difficulty swallowing, difficulty cooking with one arm, got to find out, is that the result of a cardiac procedure? Did something go wrong? Was there a nerve nicked? It seems unusual to me that that would happen, but sometimes those are the most really egregious malpractice cases, when somebody goes in to have one procedure and winds up with an injury that's just, it's related to the procedure, but it's not a risk of the procedure. And those are two different things. And so I have Pat at my office take the calls. She takes a history. What Robert will do is explain to her what hospital he went to, who the doctor was, when this started, what the symptoms are, how much better he's gotten or has not gotten, and then I'll look at it and make my own decision whether or not I think it's worth investigating. And what I do in a situation like this is I will have a cardiologist or a neurologist look at the basic fact pattern and tell me, hey, this is something that looks legitimate, we need to dig into, or it's something where the doctor will say, these things don't match up. There's something else going on here. I don't think it's a case worth investigating. That's how I do it. And I'll either call the client and tell the client, look, I can't take it because of this, A, B, or C reason. If I do want to take the case, and I'll have the client come in and I'll meet with the client personally, and we'll go through the information. I'll get their medical records, or I'll send a letter to the client of my decision if I can't take it, because sometimes I just can't call everybody. I'll go through a week where I get anywhere between 50 to 75 calls, and there's only so many of them that I can return personally, but I do like everyone to call me and give a history, so at least I have an ability to read through a questionnaire and make a a determination and have an expert make a determination whether it's a worthy claim.
And you may be watching right now, and you may have some of those questions. So again, OpenLine is for you. It is your forum. So if you do have some of those questions about a procedure or something that you think may have gone wrong, you can always give us a call right here, and we can take as many of those calls. We'll questions, comments right here. One thing that we were talking about too is dental malpractice. This is becoming more prevalent.
It is. Well, there's a certain type of case that's becoming more prevalent. You know, I talked about this off the air. I went to my dentist today, and I was, a good man, and he's always interested in the kind of cases I take. And there have been two recent cases. They're not in Tennessee. They're from out of state. I think one of them is in Florida, and the other's from some other state. I can't remember. But the fact pattern's basically the same. These dentists are giving anesthesia to children to perform procedures. Maybe it's some type of work to repair a cavity or something along those lines. Could even be, one of them involved a teenager, so maybe it was wisdom teeth being cut out, and the children don't wake up. And I saw this about 10 years ago where we had a spate of these cases. There was one actually in East Tennessee where a doctor, I think, was eventually run out of Tennessee because of this. But in any event, when people think dental malpractice, they think, well, that just pertains to, wrong tooth was taken out or the crown wasn't put in right. But the cases that I get involved in are cases where there's been a death or serious injury, because in these particular situations, these dentists are giving anesthesia, which turns out to be really just a witch's brew, a potion, so to speak. And I've had other dentists tell me that that's not right, that's the wrong thing to do. And so I just want to tell you that those cases are out there, and that's part of what we would call dental malpractice.
Okay. And then you hear too from time to time, someone will say in a medical malpractice situation, bad outcome. So when we hear that, what is that?
That's a good question. A bad outcome is really when a patient has a procedure done, the doctors do everything they're supposed to do, and yet the patient doesn't heal. Medicine is not a science, it's an art, and there are no guarantees of getting better. Now, there are probabilities of success, and there are situations where success should occur and doesn't. And in those situations where there's been a major medical mistake and a major injury, then you have a case. But if you have a major injury, even after the physician or the nurses and other healthcare providers have done everything they can do, then you got no case, because there's been no rules that have been violated. So when I use the term bad outcome, that means that the doctor or the nurses did what they were supposed to do, but yet the patient did not heal properly, or the patient passed away.
Okay, good to know. All right, so right now we have Ann on the line with us. Ann, thanks for calling. Do you have a question or a comment for Clint? Are you with us, Ann?
Okay.
No, this is Diane.
Okay, Diane.
No.
Diane, do you have a question or a comment for Clint?
Yeah, I wanted to present a scenario.
All right, go ahead.
A patient had a procedure with the dentist, I guess a specialist that was referred. After the procedure was done, there were some problems, complications, and extended, healing, where a nerve was involved. After so long, the dentist said you may have to go to a specialist to have an operation regarding the nerve. Nothing was told to her for a while, I guess, beyond the 3 weeks when the procedure should have been healed. Then she received a check in the mail for the out-of-pocket pay that she gave with no explanation. Now, in between, several calls have been made with no real explanation of why the healing wasn't taking place. And then she was told beyond 3 months you should see another specialist. With no real explanation of why the healing wasn't taking place.
Okay, Diane, you might turn your television down. I think we're getting a little cross interference, and you can just listen through your phone.
Oh, okay.
Okay?
Mm-hmm. Sure.
Let me go back to one of the key points that she mentioned, which is that the patient got a check in the mail for the patient balance. Doctors were taught years ago that one of the ways to reduce medical malpractice cases was to offer to pay the bill, or hospitals have offered to pay the bill or eat it. I guess that's a better way to look at it, so that the patient has no financial responsibility, because the belief was, and I think it's been proven, that most patients will not bring a claim if they don't have to pay their medical bill. They think in their own minds, many of them do, well, that means I've settled with the doctor, even though they haven't. Just by virtue of accepting that payment does not mean that the patient is barred from bringing the claim. To the contrary, plaintiff's rights are still protected. Now, a nerve injury is something that is difficult to prove in that it's negligence. Let me tell you why, Chuck. When you're working in the mouth, it's a fairly small area. Nerve injuries are part of the risk that patients undertake during dental procedures. There are situations where there is a case. If it's a really, really bad nerve injury and it's not, particularly when it's not in the area where the dentist is working. I've had patients who've had half their tongue numbed because of damage done during a procedure, but it's just been my experience, it's hard to make those claims stick. Doesn't mean that it can't be done, and this patient may well have a good claim, but that's not the kind of claim I usually look for because I just have difficulty winning them.
Okay. All right. Well, Diane, thank you so much for calling in this evening. Have a great evening. All right. We're going to take a break. If you do have questions, comments, once again, the number's on your screen, 737-7587. We'll get to as many questions and comments as possible during the next half hour. So we'll take a break and we'll be right back with more Open Line right after this.